Today we have news that can't wait and could change the course of our season. First, let's talk about a potential signing that could revolutionize our backfield. A college running back who is tearing up defenses and is starting to sound like the future of our offense. Is this the player we need to take us to the next level? And if you thought that was all, hold on. Our third most effective receiver is out indefinitely due to an injury. With 35 receptions and 453 yards, his absence leaves a huge gap in our offense. How are we going to move forward with our playoff aspirations when we're patching up holes in our offensive core? And to top it off, a question that's causing controversy. Does it make sense to consider a veteran offensive lineman as insurance at this point in the season? Today's conversation can't wait, and the name Dylan Samson is starting to circulate as a possible future commander of our backfield. Yes, the same Dylan Samson from Tennessee who has been tearing up the SEC this season. And the question I ask myself, and I ask you, is this the running back who could take the Commanders from being a promising team to a truly dangerous one? I think it's worth talking about. Let's look at the context. This season, with a record of 8-5, the Commanders have shown some signs of progress. Call it a transformation? Well, not quite. Because let me tell you something, we still haven't won any of the important games that really count. Yes, Jayden Daniels, our rookie quarterback, has been a ray of hope, and Cliff Kingsbury has started to make his mark on the offense. But if we're honest, something is still missing. And when I look at this system they're building, one based on options, early ground attacks, opening up the play action and RPO, I wonder, who will be that running back to truly take advantage of this offense? Austin Eckler, ladies and gentlemen, has been brave, he's fought, but 2 concussions this season. And, let's be honest, his age are asking us to consider a future plan. Why not face reality? It's not disrespectful, it's common sense. And that's where this kid from Tennessee comes in. Dylan Samson, at just 20 years old, leading the SEC with 1,485 rushing yards. You want numbers? There you have numbers. But here's the interesting part. It's not just the amount of yards, it's how he gets them. Patience, explosiveness, vision. It didn't matter that they knew he was the centerpiece of that offensive attack. No one could stop him. And here's where I tell you, that's exactly what this team needs. Now, how would he fit in? In my opinion, wonderfully. Daniel's scheme, with his skills as a running quarterback, needs a running back who can exploit the spaces created by the threat of the QB's ground game. That's the secret here. Running backs who can maximize plays while Daniels stretches the field. Samson wouldn't just run inside like a bull, but he could also find gaps in option plays and cause panic. Explosiveness and show in every play, that's what he would bring to the field. And look, I know there are doubts. He's young, coming from a system in Tennessee with an open field. How do we know he can adjust to the NFL? Well, let me tell you something. When you produce at that level against SEC competition, against players who will be stars on Sundays, that should matter to us. And Samson is not just fast. He knows how to wait for the gap, to be patient. Just the kind of running back who would fit perfectly in Cliff Kingsbury's intended system. Now, fans, let's be realistic too. This is a draft with several interesting prospects, and the Commanders can't afford to make a mistake with their pick. But here's my conviction. Passing on a talent like Samson because we already have good running backs would be a monumental mistake. Good teams invest in the future. What happens when Eckler can no longer maintain the level? We need a smooth transition, and I tell you this, Dylan Samson could be the answer. Let me finish by posing this bombshell question that goes straight to the heart of the debate. Do you think investing in Dylan Samson in the next draft will take us to the next level? Or would you prefer to strengthen another key position like receiver or defense? Because personally, I tell you that an explosive ground game radically changes the dynamics of this franchise. But I want to hear from you. I want to know what priorities you think the Commanders should have as we move forward in this rebuild. Now let's talk about our dear Noah Brown, the same receiver who donned the hero's cape when he caught Jayden Daniels' Hail Mary bomb against the Chicago Bears, who could miss the rest of the season. Yes, you heard that right. Noah Brown is out indefinitely with an internal injury. And let me tell you something, this loss hurts. We're not talking about just any receiver. Noah Brown wasn't just another name on the roster. With 35 receptions, 453 yards, and that memorable touchdown, he was marking territory as the third most effective aerial weapon on this team behind Terry McLaurin and Zach Ertz. And for a team that has already dealt with an endless list of injuries, this comes at the worst possible time. Now I ask you, how can we continue with our playoff aspirations when we're literally patching up holes in our offensive core? Let's look at this from the beginning. Who was Noah Brown at the start of this season? A receiver discarded by the Texans, a player many saw as an emergency replacement, the wild card that Dan Quinn's coaching staff decided to claim at the end of camp when they looked at the depth chart and knew something more was needed behind McLaurin. What happened next? Brown proved on the field that he deserved much more respect. He was consistent, fulfilled every assignment, and became a reliable piece for rookie Jayden Daniels. This is the kind of player you need when you're trying to build confidence with your young quarterback. But now he's out, and the rest of the receiving corps will have to step up. So, the million-dollar question, can we survive with what's left in the arsenal? Because let's be honest, beyond McLaurin, who remains our Superman in the aerial attack, the options are significantly reduced. Dyami Brown? He has talent, but can he fill Noah's shoes and be consistent week after week? Luke McCaffrey, our rookie? He's still finding his rhythm in this league. And then there's Olamide Zaccheaus, a veteran who has shown flashes, but whose chemistry with Daniels has yet to explode to the necessary level. And I don't want to be alarmist, but listen up. The final stretch of the season is here. Every game from now on counts as a final. We face the Saints in Week 15, a team that has one of those defenses that doesn't forgive mistakes in the attack. If we can't get our secondary receivers to step up, Jayden Daniels won't have enough weapons to compete. And before anyone says, well, we can always rely on the ground game, let's remember that Austin Eckler's fallibility this season also has us in a complicated situation in terms of health. This is where I ask myself something. Is it time for the team to start designing plays thinking less about the perfect balance and more about exploiting McLaurin like never before? Because when you have one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, why not focus your entire offense on him if options start to dwindle? Yes, it sounds predictable, but great players are there to carry the team when others fall. There's also another angle to consider: the future. Brown's injury should make us reflect on the depth at the receiver position, because it's not just a problem for this season. How solid are we for next year? If this season taught us anything, it's that injuries are inevitable, and relying on one or two key players in any area is, frankly, a strategic suicide. At the end of the day, it comes down to our ability to adapt and be resilient. But here, I leave you with a clear idea. At this critical moment of the season, McLaurin, Jayden Daniels, and Cliff Kingsbury have to be the axis around which this offense revolves. Daniels must show that he can carry the offense even if key weapons are taken away. If he can continue distributing the ball to secondary receivers and keep playoff hopes alive, then we'll know we have a special quarterback on our hands. So here's my question for you. Those who live and breathe every pass, every run, and every hit our commanders give and take. Do you think this team has enough depth to compensate for Noah Brown's absence and fight for a playoff spot? Or do you think this injury will be the straw that breaks the camel's back this season? What kind of logic is there in considering La'el Collins as insurance for our offensive line? I'll tell you right now, it doesn't make sense. It's a lazy, irrational, and honestly, unnecessary idea. So let's analyze this properly. First, let's talk about what's really going on. We're in the final stretch of the season, ladies and gentlemen, with a record of 8-5, with playoff dreams looming as a more than possible reality. Dan Quinn's team has built something interesting here. Is it perfect? No. But are the Commanders showing a level of competition we haven't seen in years? Absolutely. So why would there be a need to alter the chemistry and cohesion of the offensive line by bringing in someone like Collins? I ask you, what real function would a player who hasn't even stepped on the field in Dos Mil 24 and whose best seasons are clearly behind him have? Let's look at the facts. Andrew Wiley is the starting right tackle who started the season with us, and although he hasn't been perfect, yes, his performance has been questionable at times, this team already has answers in place. Cornelius Lucas, for example, did wonderfully when he was moved to the right side in Week 13 against the Titans. And don't get me started on Brandon Coleman, the rookie on the blind side. This kid is showing that he knows how to hold his own against the best defenses in the NFL. So if Lucas and Coleman are working, why look for insurance in someone who hasn't had an impact since leaving the Dallas Cowboys? Let it be clear, I'm not saying La'el Collins wasn't a good player in the past. It's not about throwing dirt on his name. But friends, the key word here is past. He's not the same player who dominated the offensive line in Dallas. His health is a question mark, his game rhythm is yet to be proven, and honestly, he doesn't seem like the type of player who can quickly adapt to a new scheme like the one Cliff Kingsbury and Dan Quinn have implemented here. And here's where the key logic comes in. Building an offensive line is not just about individual talent, it's about cohesion. It's a collective dance, a group of 5 men, or 6, if we count a valuable reserve like Lucas, who need to be in sync, repeating every move until it's automatic. Bringing in someone like Collins at this point in the season not only risks disrupting that cohesion, but also sends a confusing message to the locker room. What are you telling Lucas if you bring in a veteran in poor shape to compete with him? What message are you giving Coleman, who is already doing a good job on the blind side? Decisions at this level of the year are like playing chess. You have to think beyond the first move. And you know what? There's something we can't deny. Injuries are inevitable. We know there's fragility in the offensive line and that the team needs to address depth in the offseason. That's not up for discussion. But that's a problem for 2025. And with cap space and draft picks, Adam Peters will have the tools to build a more robust protection. But for now, this team already has ITS Plan B and ITS Plan C to deal with contingencies. These commanders have to bet on consistency, not dubious experiments. At the end of the day, bringing in La'el Collins right now is not only a desperate move, it's a move without strategic sense. You won't gain more cohesion in your offensive line while trying to integrate someone who hasn't played a snap in over a competitive year. You won't fix the flaws in a unit that, frankly, is already working as best as it can under the current circumstances. So, fans, I leave you with this reflection. Are we obsessing over players who have a name in the past instead of looking forward with what we already have? Because today, I sincerely believe this team needs to focus on what it has built within the Ashburn facilities and trust that the men on the field will get the job done. Nothing more, nothing less. Now I ask you, do you think these commanders should look for someone like Collins to strengthen the bench? Or do you trust Lucas, Coleman, and the current staff's plan? Washington Commanders fans, this is your moment to shine in the comments. Let me throw out this question that will surely ignite the debate. Do you think investing in a talent like Dylan Samson in the next draft will be the step that takes us to the next level? Or on the contrary, would you prefer we strengthen key areas like receiver or defense? I want to hear your opinions. Let's look at this other question, equally important. With Noah Brown's key absence in our attack, do you think this team has enough depth to keep the playoff dream alive? Or do you think this injury could mark the decline of our season? Your comments can bring out the point of view no one has dared to say. And here's another puzzle that only true fans will know how to answer. Should our commanders look to sign someone like Landon Collins to strengthen the bench? Or do you fully trust figures like Lucas, Coleman, and the adjustments of the current coaching staff? Tell me everything below as we enrich this discussion together. Finally, I invite you to be part of this incredible journey by closely following our commanders. This channel is not just a space for news, but a community, a family, where we all share the passion for these colors. Subscribe now to stay up to date, be part of this constant debate, and boost our commanders like never before. And remember, as always, hail to the Redskins.